So how about I kick off this weekend edition of Stock Market Mutterings with the official hashtag joyant and jubilant hello to all of my good friends out in the trading universe, or any friends that I have in any universe. Welcome to this weekend's edition of Stock Market Mutterings. My name is Doug. This is Trade with Doug. And as I always say, my mission here is to take a grope in the murkiness. And you can see I'm already chuckling because I got some groping to do because this market totally went schizo on Friday. So I'm going to do my best to try to explain that, guys, to you. And also, the stocks I discuss or the instruments I discuss here, I hope ultimately they put some money in your pocket and work out for you. As always, if you need help with your personal trading, somewhere down in the description box will be a link. Feel free to follow that and join us in our live trading room. Now, I'm going to start it out like this. This market should be featured on an episode of Breaking Bad, right? I mean, and maybe even get its own spin-off, because it's the most dramatic reality show you're ever going to witness in your life. There's one thing you will learn when you start trading, and that it's never boring. That is never boring. And this is why we all need each other, right? Because you can't explain this to someone that doesn't know anything about trading. Like, unless you've walked in these shoes and you've lived this life, you can't tell somebody every single emotional up and down they were experiencing. So again, I mean, this market totally went nuts. Now, I've been doing this for 2 decades, 24 years actually, and I've seen some crazy things in my time. Now, this is not the craziest, but there are some times where you just sit around and like, man, oh man. Never a dull moment as a trader. That's for sure. So let's go ahead and talk about this here. And I'll give you some of my thoughts and feelings, and we'll see where we go. Now, it looked like when we started here, I mean, this was a total roller coaster on Friday. Like, maybe it should be featured at Six Flags amusement park. But who needs a vacation, right, when you got this? You start out really good here early on, like really good bullish buying, really good buying pressure all throughout the early morning. And that's giving you this indication that the market wants to maybe sink in a bottom. As we know, the Qs have been the most volatile instrument out over the SPY and the Dow. And we're kind of looking for some bottoming action because a lot of these charts are really setting up well. And it starts that way, and it just really starts to pull people in. And it feels like you're going to make it back up to this pre-market highs. This is going to be an area of interest. You get a nice little pullback. This looks like a standard flagging pattern. Just sneaks slightly above high. So you think the next sequence in that is it's going to start to grind up early, and then you start going through Wildville. Now, it's still at this point throughout most of the day, still holding within a very tight range here, which is translated as bullish. So remember, you guys, we've talked about this before. For every move, it's just like the old adage, you know, for every action is an opposite reaction. So for every bullish move, you need a bearish counter move to solidify the bullish move before that. If it gives too much of that up, that's normally a bad sign. If it only gives up a percentage of that and then grinds back up, that's normally a good sign. So you're really trading tightly within this, and it still looks like here late in the session, here we go. We're going to just, you know, melt right on up there. It's looking good. And then this happens, and it's like, okay, so I guess we're not. And you really had to focus at this point on the lows, because I'm thinking here, which maybe many of you are thinking, look, this thing has every opportunity to rally. It spent 80% of the day bullish. If this thing closes on the lows, goes red, and cleans out this level, then we really need to think about what next week is going to look like. So remember, the opposite reaction to every reaction. The market's saying it wants to be bullish. It's giving the opportunity to be bullish. It's finding buyers. It's finding momentum. And all of a sudden, everything changes. So if an instrument that's already going through some period of a correction or some volatility adjustments loses their lows, that's always bad. So, well, not always, but most of the time. And what do? You come down here and you hit this like it's one of those trampolines, and it just goes nuts, like right into the close. I mean, nonstop. It's like somebody just fell over on the buy button and the algos just went crazy. Off it went. Everything was exploding. And look, as I'm doing this, it looks good. So we pull out this. I say that as, you know, I should just say, well, I don't know what's going to happen on Monday, right? So let's take a look at the daily chart here real quick on the Qs, and I'll go through the other instruments here. It's still holding up really well. It's working within this range. At some point, like we said before, you'll either move up or below that range. This definitely is the line in the sand here, guys. If you lose this number at any point going forward, you could expect a very fast trip somewhere down into here, or maybe even lower, okay? But right now, it's still bullish. So even though it's wide, it's rangy, that's obvious, it's got more volatility into it, it looks good. That was a very strong move. You probably will see more continuity if and when it ever finally moves up above this recent period of resistance. Now, we do know that the SPY itself looks a lot different than this. It's been less bearish. It's had less pullback. In fact, this is seriously bullish, and you're not too far away from all-time highs. So this, again, is just another stable flag. You have a small retracement followed by, a big old foo bar right back up. Again, I cannot find a case right now other than just nuances to say that this does not make it to 400. Now, I know I've been talking about this for a really long time. I thought this is something we were going to see in January, but we haven't. But it still looks, it's being relentless. So what you want to do in these cases is look at the big picture. What is the over? This is why we look at multiple time frames, because sometimes when you're looking at a 5-minute chart, a 1-minute chart, or an hour chart, you may get this impression that things are schizophrenic, for a lack of a better word. But when you look at larger time frames, you realize, well, it's all part of the cycle. So like when we looked at the intraday 5-minute up here, it looks a little bit radical, This thing looks very, very aggressive, very, very radical. But then when you open up the daily chart here, let me open it up, it doesn't look so bad. It actually looks a lot different. And that's why we want to use those multiple time frames. Still, the Lion King here has got to be the Dow. I'm going to pull up the YM. Wondering to myself why I'm not buying this every week. I'm trying to think of anything else that's any more consistently bullish. Far less of a pullback, much larger run. I don't know, 33.5s maybe even 34 here. Everything does look bullish, but I wouldn't be surprised if there was just kind of some trickery before you really get it. So it feels like the market's trying to play trickery, shake out people, and do that kind of good stuff. Now, I'm trying to focus as well now on moving to those Q stocks because there are a bunch of these that have lost significant value. Now, I'm not delusional thinking that they're going to go back to all-time highs, but many of these, and I can only mention 4 or 5 here for the sake of time, but you're going to find tons of the same types of setups where many of these have hit their 200-day moving average, have fallen below their 200-day moving average, some with very, very low RSIs, under 30, and some that have been cut 30 to 50% in their total price. So there is definitely some alpha value to the upside. I've mentioned a lot of these. I'll give you some names like the Payc's, the Roku's, but I want to bring up a couple of new ones here for you today. I want to look at this. I'm going to add these to my watch list because you just never know here. Here's another one, ADSK. And again, guys, you are going to find probably a dozen or so of these on your watch list. So we're in this rare time where I wouldn't say stock picking is at a premium. Maybe it is, but I would say that if the NASDAQ corrects itself, there is going to be a broad rally down the line of about 100, maybe 200, 300 different stocks, a lot of stocks, because you're going to see it like this. You see Lulu look like this. Again, I could talk tons of these. I'm just going to provide you with some different names. This one's laying right here on the 200-day moving average. We'll open it up just a little bit bigger. Really nice consolidation, very, very tight area here, okay? So if you break above this, you should start working on some of these extra levels. Now, I don't know if we're going to make it back to 321s. That's what we've been seeing lately, but anything that moves you up here for a quick multi-day bounce. A good chart that looks like that is TER. So if you remember, I recently brought up TER a few times. Here's what this one looks like. Moving really nice above this range. Friday was solid. Looks like it's going to move back up. So again, you're going to find a lot of these just hugging that 200-day moving average. I think there's a lot of value in these stocks right here. So I've got ADSK. One that looks a little bit different is TRIP. Now, this one really, really looks good. And of course, this industry is going to benefit here, obviously, if there are increased travel throughout the summer here. Pretty good waves here moving up, and now you've pulled back. I think it's a little bit steep for anything other than a day trade right now. That doesn't mean it won't go higher, but if you're looking for a swing, I would like a little bit of sideways action here and then a move up. However, it looks like the momentum in this one is very, very strong. Looks like it's got a 70 magnet on it pretty soon. So I do like TRIP. What else do I got here? I've got ADSK. I think this one's going to be more along the lines of a good base here. Let's open this one up. Nice little double bottom. Actually, you can more than that. And a lot of bottoming action right here, and a nice little press off of the lows. Looks like this one can move up here. We also have spot. I'm just going to bring up a couple that I'm thinking of here off the top, but you're going to find a lot that are just hugging down here in the really low ranges. This one's underneath of its 200-day moving average, but some of these have some pretty nice looks to them. And then the last I want to talk about is ANET. This thing is absolutely, this is kind of what I think maybe will happen with Terror. This is what happens, guys, when they break. So when you're looking at some of these here that have been in the hole, and I mean, again, you're going to find a lot of these. Once they break out of that range, they really, really go parabolic. Now, this one looks like it's definitely going to go up here. There's no definites, but looks like it's going to go up here to this 326.60. This is also too high for a swing trade. But maybe this could retest itself, maybe hold still, and then move up a little bit. It's obviously a little bit more erratic than some, but this looks like a stock that's under, accumulation. So it looks pretty good there too. I've mentioned PayC before as well. I think I might have talked about that one too. Yes, hugging the 200-day moving average here. So you're going to see a lot of those. So just real quickly, I want to add these to our list, which is ADSK, TRIP, ADSK, and ANET. Now, TRIP and ANET, for you swing traders out there, I think they're a tiny bit too high. That doesn't mean they won't go higher. You don't always get the perfect setup in the stock market. But for me, it's a little too rich right now. I'd like to see a tiny pullback there, maybe some basing, and reconfirm these recent moves, and then long them. I wouldn't have no problems day trading them on the right setups. On the other hand, you've got PayC. I think you can even add Roku to this list. I know I featured it as a stock to buy, and it's gone a little bit lower, but now it looks a lot better. But it's going to be NASDAQ dependent as well. PayC, ADSK, things like Lulu, Teradyne, all of these have that same type of setup that are hugging around or slightly below that 200-day moving average. Find a few of those, get your list together, because if that NASDAQ or that Qs breaks that area, I know this is an NYSE stock, but if it breaks those ranges, you're going to see some pretty powerful moves in there. So anyway, guys, that's all I got to talk about. Maybe you'll see a brand new reality show, the Spy, the stock market. And they can all live together in a house or something like that, because it's definitely tons of drama. So I want you to have a great trading week. As always, if you need help with anything, feel free to reach out to me. Take care, trade well, and I'll talk to you soon.